Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I don't know what time you're watching this, but hope you're having a great day. And gonna do a new lesson with you guys, 7-3 solving multi-step equations. So this lesson is basically a culmination of all the equation lessons, putting them all together here and wrapping it up. Multi-step equations are very useful. You can represent almost every single life scenario with some type of multi-step equation. Well, you could stretch some, but yeah, you can make an equation for a lot of different things and solve a lot of different things. All right, so here are the steps for solving multi-step equations. You can see them. The number one step is to simplify each side of the equal sign separately first. Okay, so you want to distribute if you need to first, then combine like terms on each separate side of the equal sign. All right. Number two is move the terms with the variables from one side of the equal sign to the other side. And remember, you're moving the whole term. You can't just move the variable. So like if you have to move 3x, you're going to have to move the 3 as well, not just the x, okay? And you want to undo 3x, so you would subtract 3x on both sides. All right. Then you have the two-step steps. All right, let's go ahead and look at a couple of these examples first. All right. Now, not all those steps are going to be in each problem here, okay? Like, we're going to start off the easy one. I know it says example 2, but example 1's a lot harder, so we're going to start with example 2. To solve this equation, all right, the first thing you need to do is distribute. So remember, what distributing is multiplying the number outside by the two numbers on the inside, okay? And if there's a minus sign, you think of it as a -2. There you go. So it's like -5 times x, -5 times -2. So let me show you, there's what the book did here. All right, that's basically what I just said. When you multiply by the -2, you'll get +10. Negative times a negative is a +10. All right, and then you just made it into a two-step. So if you look at the steps I have listed here, we had step 1, we distributed and simplified the one side. We didn't have step 2 because there was not variables on both sides of the equation. And now we're doing the two-step. All right, so first step of the two-step is get rid of the +10 by subtracting 10. Next step, you want to get rid of the -5x by dividing by -5x. And so your answer is x equals 7. All right, let's look at this next one here. All right, once again, you have a set of parentheses. So you want to distribute first, okay? So you actually don't have a number directly in front of the parentheses. So remember, you want to think about that as a -1. So you're distributing a -1 inside of the parentheses. So that's -1 times x and -1 times the -3. Okay, so remember, -3 is really -3. Okay, so hopefully you can see that real clear there. All right, so you'd have 3. -1 times x is -1x, so you can drop the 1. And then -1 times -3 is +3. Okay, we're still on step 1, by the way, of those, okay, which is to simplify each side separately. All right, so next, combine like terms. 3 plus 3 is 6. You have -x plus 6. So now you just need to get rid of the 6. So you subtract 6 on both sides. You get 19. Now notice that x is negative, okay? So that's not your answer there. To get rid of a negative sign in front of x, that's really an understood -1. So you would divide both sides by -1, and you would get x equals -19. All right? So just to remind you guys, you can check your answer if you want to by just simply substituting. Okay, just put a -19 in here and then evaluate what it would actually be. -19 minus 3 is -22. All right, and then if we have 3 minus a -22, that would, the minus and the negative turn into a plus sign. They cancel each other out. And so you get the other side, which is 25. And so, voila, it checks. How nice. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Example 3. Get some fractions involved here. Oh yes, your favorite friend, the fraction. All right, so in this one, now you do have two sets of parentheses. And so you want to simplify each side of the equation separately first. Remember, that's step 1. So we are distributing here. Okay, so you're distributing the 1/4 times x and 1/4 times 3. All right, now this step here is very helpful to write out when you're working with fractions, because a lot of you guys, can't do multiplication of fractions mentally. Of course, 1/4 times 3, maybe half of you guys can do that mentally. All right, so you have 1/2 times x, and you distribute it, it's 1/2 times 2. Okay, so remember, if you're multiplying fractions, you can think of the times the whole number, you can think of the whole number as a number over 1. And you could cancel diagonals if you want, but nothing cancels on this one. So you're just simply going to do 1 times 3. So you take 1 times 3 is 3, 4 times 1 is 4. Okay, 1/4 x, we're just going to keep it as 1/4 x. The book actually rewrites this as 1/4 times x is the same thing as x over 4. Okay, so if you ever see somebody doing that, these two things are equivalent. But 1/4 x plus 3/4, and we have 1/2 x over here. And then we have 1/2 times 2. And then 1/2 times 2, well, what's 1/2 of 2? It's 1. Okay, you could cross out the diagonals, you'd have 1 left. Okay, so now we are on the step number 2. Okay, remember the steps here? Don't forget about these. So we simplified each side of the equal sign. Now we're going to move terms by addition or subtraction. So move all the variable terms to one side. All right. But before we do that, you want to remember that when you move variable terms that have fractions, you need a common denominator. Good old common denominator. So the common denominator here is 4. So we take a half, we make it into fourths. A half becomes 2/4. So there you go. All right, and so think about which way you want to move it. Do you want to subtract 1/4 x or subtract 2/4 x? Well, like I always told you guys, try to avoid negatives. So I'm going to subtract the smaller one. That way we have more positives here. So I'm subtracting 1/4 x from each side. All right, so these two terms will cancel out. I'd be left with 3/4 on the left side. 2/4 minus 1/4 is 1/4 x. Bring down the plus 1. Okay. So we need to now do the 2-step. All right, so get rid of the plus 1 by subtracting 1 on both sides. Okay. Now, you might be wondering what 3/4 minus 1 is. So I should have maybe changed my denominators there. 3/4 minus 1 is equivalent to 3/4 minus 4/4. Okay? Because minus 1 is the same thing as 4/4. So that's the common denominator. 3/4 minus 4/4 is negative 1/4 equals 1/4 x. All right, and now do you remember how to get rid of a fraction times a variable? You multiply by that fraction flipped over. So 1/4 flipped over is simply 4. So you're multiplying by 4 or 4/1 to both sides of this equation. And then 4 times negative 1/4, these would cancel out. Then you're left with negative 1 equals x. There you go. A lot of work, but not so bad. You can substitute it to check it. Let's go ahead and do another problem here. All right, so this one, you guys, I want you all to try it. All right, we'll see how you do. Okay, so I did the first step, which was distributing. Okay, I messed up distributing though. Let me fix it here. Negative times a negative is a positive. And then you have a negative 3 times a negative x. So this would be a positive 3x. All right, so we made that into positive 3x. Whoops. All right, so now we need to move our variables from one side of the equation to the other. So I have a half x. I want to subtract it. So in order to avoid the negatives, I am moving the smaller one there. 3x minus a half x. So it's like 3 minus a half, which is 2.5x. And typically speaking, I mean, I'm only doing that because I can do that easier mentally. It's actually probably better to work with it as an improper fraction. And so that's exactly what I'm going to do in the next step. I'm going to take 2.5x and make it into an improper fraction, 5/2 x. Okay? So we have 21 plus 5/2 x equals 1. And then we got a good old two-step. So we subtract 21. Voila. And 1 minus 21 is equal to negative 20 equals 5/2 x. Boom. And then we multiply both sides by the reciprocal. Good old reciprocal. All right, so we have x by itself, and then we need to reduce all this here. So 5 goes into 24 times, so that becomes a 4. 4 times 2 is 8. All right, and then don't forget your negative sign, just kind of lurking there. You might want to, I don't know, make it go up with the 4 in case you forget it there. All right, so x is equal to negative 8. So not so bad for that one there. All right, let me show you guys. There's a word problem here that the book has. All right, so let's just set up the equation for this one. I don't think we'll have enough time to solve it. But teacher rode a total of 4x plus 3 miles on Monday through Wednesday. He rode x plus 7 on both Friday and Saturday. How far did he ride on Thursday, which is x? Okay, so they don't really tell you this, but this is key to the problem. The total number of miles he rode on Monday through Wednesday is the same, okay, or in other words, is equal to the total number of miles he rode on Thursday through Saturday. Okay, so this chunk right here is equal to all of this chunk. Okay, so it's like he got equal halfway through the week. And I just got messy and I covered that up. So let me uncover it for you. All right, so in other words, 4x plus 3, okay, is going to be equal to, add up these three things. Okay, so you have Thursday, which is x, and you have x plus 7 twice. Okay, so since we have x plus 7 twice, we could write it as 2 times the quantity of x plus 7. Now, if you wanted to, you could just add up all the like terms here. Okay, but this is the way the book wants you to think about it. All right, so I mean, you could get 3x plus 14 if you just add all the x's and add the 7 and 7. All right, so anyhow, we're going to distribute next. X plus 2x plus 14. And you'll have 4x plus 3. Combine like terms on the right side. So you'll have 3x plus 14 equals 4x plus 3. And then you're going to subtract the 3x. So you have x plus 3 equals 14. And then x is equal to 11. So this means that he rode 11, and it's always good to label your answers, miles on Thursday. Okay, and you can actually figure out how many he rode on Friday, which is 11 plus 7. So it'd be 18 here, 18 here, 11 here, and then 4 times 11 plus 3. Okay, so this would be 47. 4 times 11 plus 3. So this better be 47 too, which it is. And so that just checks that we did it right, which is cool. All right, so I got one last problem for you guys to try in this video. I want you guys to do it with pencil and paper. I'm gonna do it myself and then play the video back so you can see the answer. And that's it. So I hope you guys have a great day. Bye-bye. Here it is. Check it out. The correct way to do the last one. Let me know if you have any questions. And See you next time.